I don't need notes to read out Vicky Conway's contribution to our school, because I had the great privilege of being her PhD supervisor throughout her time. We arrived here together, two new people in the School of Law, and we are still here together. I don't know what that says other than her endurance or the school's endurance. The Blue Wall of Silence is a really significant book. It's a book that actually tackles the institutionalized corruption in the Garda in the South. For so long in the South, in the Republic of Ireland, the assumption was that because there was always a high level of satisfaction in policing and with the police, in all public polls, the assumption was that the Garda were above any kind of public accountability. What this book actually demonstrates, and what her research demonstrates, and some of that research was incredibly brave. It showed immense courage. Those of you who've done qualitative investigative research know that in doing research and interviews with former senior officers in any of our state institutions, but particularly the police, you're putting yourself on the line. And not only did she do that in terms of retired police officers in the Garda, but she did it with some of those who'd been involved with that institutional abuse over time. This was real abuse. It was planting evidence, it was false confessions, it was institutionalized corruption. And of course, in all of these situations, as much of us in the room, our work testifies, it's not just the actual issue itself, it's how that becomes compounded through the lies and the deceit, through the masking of truth. We use the phrase cover-up. I use it very guardedly, but there is absolutely no question of the cover-up in terms of the institutionalized abuse of generations of police officers in the South. Hence the title, Blue Wall of Silence. The fact that that work, that corruption itself remains silent, compounding the abuse of power through the abuse of process. Of course, this would be a critical criminologist's testimony, and you would say, as a critical analyst, we would say that, wouldn't we, anyway? Except the book also traces the history and development of the Morris Tribunal, an unprecedented tribunal set up in 2002, completing its work in 2008, which called for root and branch reform of the Garda. And of course, right at the heart of this work is the very revelation that Vicky herself had chronicled. And it raises very serious questions of our time that are embodied in the acts in all of our jurisdictions. The accountability of the police, the impact of the lack of accountability on public confidence, but also, and most significantly, the role of official inquiries, the role of official discourse, and their relevance to public education, to our greater understanding of what happens literally underneath our noses, that happens as part of our everyday life. When I first met Vicky, she was setting out on this research into police accountability, and like all of us, wanted to do a major comparative study, and I was discussing this with her. I remember the days well, about how much you could do in a PhD. What she managed to do was to produce a PhD of incredibly high quality, one that actually focused down on the intricacies and the corrupt practices of a police force. It was revelatory research at its best. It was backed up with great theory, and it was backed up with great understanding. From us, we lost her for a while. She went to Leeds as a teaching fellow, gained immense experience there, came back to the University of Limerick, and then finally, although, as you will hear from her accent, she's a Cork woman, she's really come back to our home. It's a great privilege for those of us who are at the other end of our careers to work with talented young academics such as Hakeem and Vicky. For that I'm grateful. and I get paid for doing that job. It's remarkable, it's wonderful. And for those of you who are in the process that they were in just a few years ago, take heart, because good work always comes to the fore. Good critical work is something that we need. It's relevant in our society, it's relevant to our understanding, and it's relevant to public education and engagement. As I say, I'm proud to be their colleague, and I'm so pleased that we have tonight such a good audience to actually celebrate their achievements. So please, all of you, clap, put your hands together, shout, whistle, stand for Hakeem and Vicky.